Boys, today I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about figure drawing, or in other words, pose drawing. Okay, so turns out pose drawing and figure drawing aren't the same thing. So scratch that, I'll teach you about pose drawing. I repeat, pose drawings. Now, before we get started, I just wanted you to realize that you're not going to become a master at this from watching just one YouTube video, or 2 YouTube videos, or 3 YouTube videos. It's gonna take a while for you to master this skill. Heck, even I haven't mastered this skill yet. But if you want to learn how to draw poses like the ones I've drawn here, then take it from me. This video is an absolute mythic find. But without further ado, let's get started. Now, before you can think about drawing poses, you need to have at least a basic understanding of one of the art fundamentals, those being forms and structures. Now, if you want to learn more about it, which I highly recommend, you can check out this video where I kind of explain it more in depth. In a nutshell, it's basically breaking down complex objects into simple forms. What do I mean by simple forms? I mean cubes, spheres, cylinders, you know, the most basic shapes that you can imagine. And so, like with almost anything in art, everything stems from these 3 basic shapes. Well, actually there are more of them, but for figure drawing, these 3 are pretty much everything that you need. Listen, I am not exaggerating when I say that you can draw literally any pose that you can imagine simply by using these 3 shapes. Now, this is the part where most artists will tell you to practice drawing all of these shapes before you get into pose drawings. And you know, they're right, like I should also be saying that. But honestly, man, who wants to spend hours upon hours just drawing these basic ass boring shapes? I say just jump straight into pose drawing. However, your drawings are probably not gonna look good. I'm just gonna tell you straight up. If you don't have experience drawing these 3 shapes, well, I mean, the sphere is kind of basic, it's like a circle from every angle that you look at it. But if you don't have a basic handle on drawing these 2 shapes, the box and the cylinder, your poses are probably not going to look good. So if you want your poses to look good straight off the bat, probably practice these 2 shapes before you get into pose drawing. But if you don't care and you just want to have some fun, just go straight into pose drawing. However, your progress is going to be a lot slower. A lot more fun, but a lot slower. Anyways, I've said what I needed to say. Now let's get on with the drawing. You want to take your pencil, and this is the construction phase of the drawing, so you want to press down very, very lightly because most of these lines you're going to be erasing when you're finalizing the drawing. If you press too hard, you might actually etch your lines into your paper, and even after you erase them, they might still be visible. So I usually start my pose drawings at the head, and for the head, I use the sphere. And how could I forget? Reference. That's pretty important. Find a reference. I am using a reference right now, by the way. Trust me, it's a lifesaver. Does wonders. Then after you draw the circle for the head, you want to draw a box, a rectangular box for the ribcage. And I think I might have went too wide. That's also another reason why you have to go super light with your lines, because if you make a mistake, you don't want that mistake to be etched into your paper and ruin your sketch. I just use this tube looking shape to connect the ribcage to the pelvis, and by the way, the pelvis is also going to be simplified into a box shape. You want to make sure that you get the orientation down perfect. Well, maybe I shouldn't say perfect because, you know, that's kind of difficult, but you want to get it as close to perfect as possible. If you mess up during the construction phase, your whole drawing is going to look wrong, or, you know, at least not accurate to the reference. So make sure you spend enough time during this phase. Now I use tiny circles for the joints, but these are not really spheres. These are just circles just to better help me like imagine where the joints are supposed to be. So then, according to my reference, I'm gonna draw stickman limbs for now, but again, do not go too dark with the lines because these lines are gonna be erased for the most part in a bit. I'll do the same thing for the arms. Now for the feet, I don't really know how to describe the shapes that I use. I honestly just try my best to copy the reference because I don't know how to draw feet. So probably gonna have to look up a different tutorial for that. I don't really know how to help you there, but you wanna go really basic with it, as with everything else that we've been doing so far. Yeah, I need to look up how to draw feet, bro. But anyways, that's kind of the basic idea. And then after this, you would have to add the cylinders for the limbs. So you use kind of the stickman limbs that we drew as a guide on how to get the orientation perfect for the limbs. And you try to center the stickman limbs on the cylinders as best as you can, kind of like this. Add a sphere for the joint and do the same thing for the forearms, but for the forearms, instead of it just being a basic plain cylinder, as you get closer to the wrist, the cylinder is gonna kind of taper a little bit. Let me just draw it off here to the side so you can see what I'm talking about. Instead of your cylinder going kind of like this, it's supposed to be going something like this. Notice how it kind of tapers off as it approaches the other end. In a way, it kind of looks like a cup. So you can imagine it as a cup if it helps you. So going back to the drawing, you want to make sure to add that taper. And I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but notice how my forearm here on this side, it overlaps the joint for the elbow. That's because we're drawing these shapes in 3D. So in 3D, naturally things are going to overlap each other, and you're going to see that a lot more when you're drawing poses in extreme perspectives. So anyways, for the legs, you pretty much just do the same thing. Oh, actually, before we move on to the legs, notice that I made this arm a bit too long, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. Again, this is the time to fix all of the imperfections, because like I said, if anything in this phase of the drawing, in the construction phase, is wrong, the whole drawing is just gonna look wrong. So as I was saying, for the legs, it's pretty much gonna be the same thing, except when we were drawing the arms, the upper arm is just a basic cylinder with no taper. This time, both of the cylinders for the thighs and the calves are going to taper a little bit, but it's going to be much less noticeable than when we were drawing the arm. You want to make it very, very subtle. For the hands, I just use kind of a triangle shape. I have a full tutorial on how to draw hands on my channel, so if you need that, go check it out, links in the description. From here, I like to rough in the shape of my head, and again, I have a full tutorial on how to draw heads on my channel, so if you also need that, check that out, links in the description. Then I rough in the basic anatomy. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but this is not an anatomy video. This is a pose drawing video, so if you want anatomy, you gotta go somewhere else. And I can already hear some of you saying, well, artist, you need anatomy to draw the poses. No, you don't. You do not need good anatomy to draw poses. Even the most basic anatomy knowledge will be enough for you to get by. Plus, most of your characters are probably going to be wearing clothes, so you wouldn't even need to draw in the anatomy. Only you know the basic outlines and silhouettes, but you don't need to know the deepest intricacies of each of the muscles to be able to draw something like that. So, yeah, please do not comment about the anatomy aspect. And just like that, you can clearly see how by applying the art fundamental of forms and structures, breaking down the human body into these three simple shapes, we can go from such a basic looking skeleton to a full human body like this. And then from here you can go on to add your clothes and slap on your character design. You can really do whatever you want from here. And that's basically how I draw poses. Now obviously there's more to this, and when I say more to this, I primarily mean perspective, because foreshortening is a thing. So if enough people want it, I can do a whole tutorial dedicated to perspective and foreshortening when it comes to drawing poses. Of course, like always, we're gonna do a few more examples of how to apply this knowledge right here. So let's get on with it. So forgive my voice, I'm a little sick, but I'll still try my best to do this voiceover. So from this point on in the video, I won't really be saying anything new. Everything that I'll be saying from now on is sort of stuff that has already kind of been said before. So again, I'm going to start off with a sphere for the head of my character. And then I'm going to draw a box for the ribcage and another box for the pelvis and a cylinder in between them to kind of connect them. Then I'm going to add some tiny circles at the corners of each of the boxes. From those circles, I'm going to draw some stickman limbs to kind of help me place the cylinders that are going to represent the limbs. And you can see that I erase and redraw a lot here back and forth because, again, this is the most important part of the drawing, the construction phase. So if you don't fix any mistakes now, you won't have any other chance. And then I just rough in my basic anatomy. Again, this is stuff that we've already gone over. There's not really anything new. So off to the side, I'll draw a pose that is a lot more dynamic and a lot more difficult to draw than the poses I've drawn in this video so far. Actually, it's the pose that you guys see in the thumbnail. But you'll soon notice that the process is exactly the same. For more dynamic poses, the only thing that we need to take into account is perspective. And as a general rule of thumb, the closer things are to us, the bigger they appear. And the farther things are from us, the smaller they appear. If you keep that in mind, your pose drawings should have no problems at all. Although, like I said, if you guys really want me to, I can make a whole video dedicated to perspective and foreshortening. Just let me know in the comments. So by applying everything that we talked about in this video, you can draw poses as simple as this to poses as complex as this. And just with this simple framework with literally minimal anatomy, you can make a full, complete illustration. Hey, do me a favor and subscribe real quick, because you're pretty much at the end of the video. You probably don't even realize it. I mean, come on, bro. If you felt compelled enough to watch through the entire video, you gotta admit that at least deserves a sub, right? And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave a like as well. Truthfully though, I really do hope the tips in this video helped, and I hope that you guys can bring the poses from your imagination into reality. Thank you for watching, and this will be Artist D Artist signing out.